All right, welcome back to Targeted. In the studio, I have Tampa number 2. This is the whole reason why I came here is because I wanted to reconnect with my crew. I have Mike Brooks. Say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody.
All right, Mike Brooks is a former senior leader. He's a cyber ops officer, retired here a couple years ago. He does cybersecurity expertise. You might have seen him. If you're in this world, you definitely have. He's doing all the certification refreshes on what's new. You've seen him in his newsletters probably, but he's also a dad, dog dad, softball dad, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
But how do you describe yourself whenever someone says, what do you do?
Well, just like you said, I mean, I think I start with, and we're going to get into some of this because identity is a huge component of my story. So my current identity, I say I'm retired, number one. And then number two, I say that I'm a dad. And I haven't always thought of it in those terms, but that's how I think about it now. I do currently work in cybersecurity and I love doing that work. But I really view, kind of my main mission as completed and I'm on to something else.
Yeah. The main mission being the military mission that we were assigned to. We worked together for a number of years.
Yeah, man. It was awesome.
It was, man. But when we talked briefly on the road, whether we were setting up the president or we're setting up, I think there was one time we were setting up Clinton at one of these shows. I know I have a picture somewhere. I'll put it in there. Jackson, show him the picture. It's going to be sick. It's an old picture, but it's not old. It seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
But when we were talking, you told me about all the other elite communities that you were a part of in your career. So before I let you go off into what you do now, let's talk about this baseline that you set up. You were part of the Thunderbirds, special operations community, the cyber operations stand-up where it became a thing, an operation. You were part of a major build-out in the Middle East. You've done deployments. You have a stack of ribbons. So talk about that, like your career. How did all that materialize?
Yeah, there's even a backstory to even before the military. But, when I joined the military.
Well, tell us.
Well, okay. So, before I joined the military, I was playing football in college. I was going to a small Division II school in Southern Arkansas. I had a 1.79 GPA.
So you were a quarterback.
I was on the defensive side of the ball, but I needed a 1.75 to be eligible. And after about 2 years of playing football, I had 6 credits and was going absolutely nowhere. And so, I decided to finish up school. I wanted to join the FBI. That was my dream, my goal. My dad was a police officer. So I really was interested in joining the FBI, but I needed a degree, obviously, to do that.
Your dad was a cop?
My dad was a police officer.
Was that the only person in your family that was in police?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
So you grew up as a police officer's son?
Yeah. So dad was never home.
How was that? I mean...
Yeah. Dad was never home.
And you couldn't get in trouble?
Very authoritative, get in trouble easy. He actually put my brother, I have a twin brother. He put my twin brother in jail. I think we were in 7th grade.
7th grade?
7th grade. He went out drinking in the woods with a bunch of our friends and dad put him in jail for the night. So,
those are family memories right there. What did that do to you? You're like,
I tried to do the right thing a lot of times. I don't know. I learned from watching others. So,
so you didn't drink in the woods, you drank in the store?
I was not there that night for sure. Because I didn't go to jail. So
it's fair. Yeah. All right. So you were trying to get in the FBI.
Yeah. So I was trying to get a college degree. That's really what I needed. And I wasn't doing that playing football. I was goofing around and not going anywhere. And then I was working at a restaurant, waiting tables, and a buddy of mine was a bartender, had just gotten out of the Air Force. I said, hey man, if you're looking for school, you got to think about joining the military. And I said, okay, I don't know that much about it, but I'm certainly interested in learning more, especially if they're going to pay for my school, because that's awfully difficult trying to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And so the next day I was, knocking on the door at the recruiter's office saying, hey man, I'm ready to join the Air Force. I want to get money for college. And the recruiter was like, well, hold on a second. It's not quite that easy, So anyway, he got me kind of through the process. Yeah. Got me off to Lackland Air Force Base for enlisted basic training.
So you went enlisted first.
Went enlisted first, 1995. I joined up and went in, and with the whole goal of get a degree, get out as quickly as possible, join the FBI. That was my initial, orientation joining the military.
Yeah.
And, the discipline didn't bother me. I actually enjoyed the teamwork component of it. I played sports my whole life, played competitively. So I didn't mind that. I was actually really, really interested in that. I kind of felt that was missing a little bit of structure, and we'll kind of come back to this as a theme, I think. So then I joined the military. just went all in. It was a good life. I just kind of went all in with it. And, anything I do, I tend to give it my best. And that's what I did. And the amount of opportunity that the Air Force provided me was just incredible.
Is that why you chose the Air Force?
No, I chose the Air Force because the guy that I was talking to was Air Force and said, hey, man, you ought to join the Air Force. I didn't know the difference between the services. I'm certainly glad I picked the Air Force of all of the ones I could have chose.
Yeah, you should go by and get that guy a dinner or something and say thanks.
And I wouldn't change a thing, man. 22 years, lots of awesome connections and memories and stuff. And so throughout my career, every assignment that I had was pretty much a selective assignment. I started off in Wyoming working on nuclear missile radio systems. And then I went to the Thunderbirds. I did that for 3.5 years. That was unbelievable.
That a lot of travel?
A lot of travel, but the professionalism, the teamwork, the mission, just incredible. Elite of the elite, from the pilots to the maintainers, to the public affairs people, to the communicators. Everybody there was all in and whatever it takes. And so that was an amazing experience.
You had to interview for those jobs, don't you?
Yeah, I had a pretty extensive interview process. And then the Thunderbirds have an orientation program for their enlisted folks that you've got to go through what's called a 21-day program where you learn the history of the team and you have to meet everybody on the team. And you've really got to kind of show that you want to be there. And, it was an amazing experience.
That's the old JFK mantra. I don't know if maybe it's RFK. It's one of the Kennedys where he walks into NASA and he's talking to the guy, sweeping the floor. He's like, what do you do here?
Yep.
And he's like, well, we put people on the moon and my job is to sweep the floor. But like that's the team camaraderie. Everyone there seems like they're doing the same mission. Is that what you felt there?
Yeah, I felt the teamwork was incredible. I mean, and it was just such a wonderful place to be. That everybody was super professional. I mean, just so mission oriented. We would have issues with the aircraft sometimes. And I mean, if it took flying an engine out overnight, that's what they would do. And, by the next show time, those planes were sitting on the runway, all shiny, ready to go, all code 1 and ready for takeoff, man. And it was just incredible. So
code 1 is ready to go.
Yeah. Code 1 is ready to go, ready to fly.
Nice. I mean, is that when you really started getting interested in, you're a leadership expert. So as a leadership expert, is that where you started like really paying attention to leadership? And to make that happen, that takes leadership.
Yeah. Well, my first leadership lesson happened much earlier in my career in the military, right? It happened in basic training, actually.
Okay.
So my first military leadership lesson or real leadership lesson that I learned was in basic training.
Okay.
And so the advice that I was given going into basic training was don't volunteer for anything. Right. Don't volunteer for anything. I said, okay, I can follow that advice. That sounds like pretty solid advice. Let me follow that advice. And we're in basic training. The first couple of days are an absolute blur because you're getting your head shaved, you're getting 50 shots, you're getting new uniform. I don't even remember those days. We get into our first week where we're like actually functionally moving around as a flight, or a platoon. The Air Force calls them flights. Mm-hmm. Our formation is about 48 of us. And we are in 12-row elements. So each element contains 12 people, and there's an element leader that's responsible for the element. So that element leader is responsible for those 12 people.
Right.
And so our element leader, that first week of basic training, wasn't doing it quite right and, got fired. And all of the element leaders that first week got fired. And I think it was just part of the process of, rebuilding you. And so the drill instructor came over, the training instructor came over right into my face after he fired the element leader. And I just happened to be kind of close by.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, Brooks, you ever led anything in your life? And I'm like, don't volunteer for anything. Don't volunteer for anything. Don't volunteer for anything. I had to give my reporting statement and then basically say, no, sir, not me, never been in charge of anything. Don't know anything about anything. You don't volunteer for anything, And he's like, good, congratulations. You're the new element leader.
Oh my gosh.
Get up here.
Yeah.
And being responsible for those 12 guys in that training environment was a masterclass in leadership. It was just unbelievable. And what it all boiled down to was helping them succeed to help us succeed so that we could all succeed. And, there was one time that we had, it's called KP, Kitchen Patrol. It's like, you got to be in the chow hall and you got to be, doing everything. And I was in the back. We were washing dishes. I think that's the station that I had, and all of a sudden I just hear all this, where's Brooks at? Where's Brooks at? Where's Brooks
You
at?
heard your name for sure.
I'm like, oh, what's going on? And the guy's right here, and he's just talking to me
in your
about,
face.
why are there no cups on the drink line? Why are there no cups on the drink line? Why are there no cups on the drink? I'm like, I'm washing the dishes. I have no idea why is he screaming at me about cups is what I'm thinking. Yeah. But one of my guys was responsible for cups. So ergo, I'm responsible for cups because he's one of my guys. And so that's where it starts to click in that, leadership is all about accountability, right? Results. And so that's where I started learning my leadership skills, really was in Air Force basic training. And then it continued. I mean, I was fortunate enough to not only have these elite assignments with the Thunderbirds, national agencies, intelligence agencies, to be a sitting commander, in a war zone, that was awesome. But it was really more about the leadership lessons that you learn along the way. So I was able to lead at every single level within the Air Force, both on the enlisted side and on the officer side. So I got to see it from the element leader to the team chief, to the non-commissioned officer, to the brand new lieutenant, to the program manager, to the flight commander, to the squadron commander, to the director, to the, all of that. It was just an amazing opportunity.
You got yelled at a lot, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, you learn fast. Back to what I learned those very first couple of days.
Well, the different levels, they give you different types of feedback. What's your preferred type of feedback whenever someone that you're responsible for goes off the rails?
Direct and quick, right? And standards based. Like you're either hitting the mark or you're not. And that feedback's got to be direct. We learn this in the military because it's a very operational environment, right? And so I'll say that leadership style doesn't translate well to corporate America. And there's reasons why. And so you have to be situational based with leadership. You've got to learn to really apply the right leadership model and approach to the person and to the situation. But what I've found the most valuable is really that just direct real-time feedback. It's working, it's not working, you need to make adjustments. And as I think back even through my athletic career, I mean, we did that in football. We watched tape and we got graded on our performance and we made improvements. And, it's that feedback loop and that feedback cycle that's critically important.
Do you think they're reluctant to open up that feedback loop because maybe they're worried about what people think or what people might think, or they may feel like it's their failure? Do you see that is either opening or closing that feedback loop today?
Yeah, I think to me, this all boils down to a leader's core function, right? Which is to build and sustain and maintain trust. Mm-hmm. And so when people feel trusted, when you are trusted as a leader, people feel safe. And when people feel safe, people tend to communicate. Shared purpose is another very aligning concept. And so if you and I are working towards the same goal, whether it's, I'm your son, you're my daughter, we're on the same team, we're on the same project, we're on the same company, we're on the same board. As long as we have a shared understanding and our goals are aligned, then we're moving in the same direction. But if you're worried about your next promotion and I'm worried about my bonus and this other person's worried about their project goal, that's where you're going to start struggling. And that's where that direct feedback starts to become almost disruptive because it's counter to what individuals care about, less about the team. And it's really the team that is what's important. No team, no leader, right?
Right. Yeah. Without people, there's nothing.
There's nothing to lead. You're a manager.
Yeah, for sure. So a shared objective and just staying safe, huh? Those are pretty core elements that people don't see. Let me ask you this question. I threw it out to the audience. I'm like, what can I ask Mike? And they sent this one. What's one rule that you refuse to break as a leader?
For me, it comes down to risk and asking folks to do things you wouldn't do yourself. So I would never ask anyone to take a risk that I wouldn't take myself. And I've been in those situations. I've had to put people in harm's way and had to think very deliberately about that and reconcile that with myself that I would go do the same thing. And I know that I would. And so it becomes easier. And even just, day-to-day risk decisions now you have to kind of look at it through that lens of, am what I am asking above and beyond what I'd be willing to do myself in terms of willing to commit to. And I think that goes a long way without saying anything in terms of genuineness and being authentic as a leader.
Yeah. On that, let me pull a thread. I think whenever you're having a conversation with somebody and you're telling them what you expect them to do, being authentic in that, whether you've done it or not, it requires some level of communication. I like how your whole approach has always been very open. Like, let me just tell you what I know, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do here. But you have always had the gift of being able to explain it to people where others just say, do what I told you to do. How did you develop that whole persona is what I'll call it?
Yeah.
Because it's something desirable. I think, how did you develop it? Because I want people to try to develop it themselves. And I know you've got some gold in there I'm going to pull out and give it to the audience.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it's definitely been a process for me to learn. And watching others too, I think, is how you learn. Watching other good and bad leaders. I learned a ton from horrible leaders, and I had more than my share of horrible leaders in the military.
Do you think you learn more from horrible leaders?
I would say equally as valuable as good and bad. I mean, I wouldn't say one over the other. Both teach you very, very good. They're effective teachers, bad leaders and good leaders. But, for me, I've distilled my leadership philosophy down to two simple sentences. Leaders serve, results matter. So as a leader, you have to be serving. And when you're serving, you have to be identifying need. And when you're identifying need, you have to understand the problem. When you understand the problem, you have to articulate solutions. And so it's almost empathetic in a way that I'm not shouting at you from the top of the hole and looking down on you going, wow, it looks like it's cold in there. Wow, it looks like it's dark in there. Yeah. Wow, it looks like it's a long way up to the top. I'm in the hole with you. And I understand it's cold in here. Yeah. It's dark in here. It's a long way to the top. What are we going to do about it? What do you think? What do I think? What do we think? And then we can start to formulate, our approach. Yeah. But again, if I lose the fact that as a leader, I'm serving you, I'm serving the team, I'm serving the mission, I'm serving the organization, I lose it all, in my sense. I mean, the directive, authoritative leadership style, I think is, has its place, has its very limited place in the world, but leaders serve, results matter.
So that directive, authoritative approach being needed, I think that's life and death, but I think a lot of people, they call it toxic, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, have you experienced that type of leader a lot? Both in and out of the military. You don't have to, we can stay in your whole experience, not just in uniform.
Yeah, I've seen it on both sides. I mean, certainly have seen it in the military. Rank, has its privileges. And one of those privileges is you get to tell people what to do. And so in some cases, when you tell people what to do in the military, they do it. And so you don't get a whole lot of feedback in terms of your approach and, are you being, kind and gentle and, or whatever, it's just like, hey, look, do this. I don't care. Get it done. Go away. And there are those kinds of leaders, and I've worked for those kinds of leaders. And so again, as a leader myself, I'm serving them. So as I understand them better, if I understand it, what they're saying and what they're doing, I've got to just be continually just giving to them and giving to them and giving to them. Also with that, though, comes some receiving. I'm receiving things that I can't take too thick and I can't take the wrong way. And I've got to just stay focused and stay head down. I've seen that in the military, and I've also seen that in the private sector. I had a rough transition from the military into the corporate world. I'll tell you, it was not easy. It's a completely different world. It took me a long time to figure that out. And to work through that.
What advice would you give to somebody that's starting that journey right now?
I would tell them to take their time and to go very slow. This is what I do. And I do mentor folks transitioning from the military. And I would just tell them, especially for a career guy like me, I did 22 years in the Air Force, the majority of which we were at war. And it was very, very intense. And I was in very elite positions, in leadership positions. It takes a tremendous toll. I didn't realize the toll that it took on me until I left and started to deal with some of those struggles of being in a post-military kind of world. To me, identity is the binding glue of how a person functions and sees the world. And, I tell people when you leave the military, especially if you've been in it for a long time, you're going to lose your identity. I certainly did. And when you lose your identity, it is very destabilizing and things start to fall apart. Things start to unravel. The world does not make sense. Coherence is lost. And so knowing that is valuable. Knowing that before it happens is extremely valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of books out there about trauma and experiences. And the one that you have to go through, the one that you just explained, is deeply personal. So I appreciate you being real with the audience. It's framed like this. When you went in the military, while you're getting yelled at, while you're being an element leader, they tell you how to talk, how to walk, when to eat, when to sleep, how to be part of this community that is the largest corporation in the world.
And number one in the world at what they do.
Yes. There's nothing no one's ever, we stole a president, just for giggles, a couple months ago. I just throw that out there because that actually happened. And, the guy had another country in his presence whenever we did it. So we'll do whatever we want. That's the corporation we're talking about, being the best at whatever it is that we decide we're going to do. Whenever you step out of that, it slows down. People think differently of the military from the other side of the curtain, if you will. I know when I was at the White House, we didn't wear a uniform, we always wore a suit, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did.
So when we were wearing a suit and we were talking to the staffers, they would talk bad about the military. And I'm like, I'm in the military. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, I'll never forget it. I remember being told this, and it really hit me hard. They're like, I'm sorry you have to be in the military. And I was like, what? What?
Yeah.
No, I chose to be in the military. And Mike, honestly, looking back on it, I didn't have another choice. Like that was the best choice.
Me too. Same for me. Like I said, I was going nowhere fast, and I didn't have a lot of direction. I didn't have a college fund. I didn't have any of that stuff, which thankfully now, and again, I think our job as parents and as leaders is to level up the next generation, right? Whether that's leaders coming up or our children. So mission accomplished there. Like we've kind of raised that bar, but the military offered again opportunity. And I think for me, identity became a huge component, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize that, you walk into a room, everybody stands up, everybody looks at your chest. They can tell in 5 minutes who you are, where you've been, what you've done.
The old left shoulder lean.
Yeah. It's like, okay, let me check this guy out real quick. Okay. Especially in the more elite communities where, things mean, buttons mean certain things, even just like our presidential service badge, I keep that on my uniform to this day, hanging in my closet, because I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of the fact that, I got the opportunity. Am I special? No, but I got the opportunity.
Yeah, you got to stop saying that, man. You are special because in this community, I think the last book that was written was, about the White House Communications Agency, which was the agency we worked for. It was talking about being the top 1% of the top 1%. And that's how you get assessed to be there. But on top of that, you were actually on the president's staff as a personal aide to the president of the United States. So not only just the top percent of the top percent, but also the top percent of that to be on the actual staff of the president of the United States as a military member.
Yeah.
So, you could say you're not special or anything. I thought differently. I looked up to you. And I wanted to be just like you, which is why I kind of followed in your footsteps. I was like, I want to be like that guy. He talks to everyone like they're human. He recognizes people that are doing great work, and he tells people when things are messed up. I want that guy. I want the Mike Brooks effect. How do I get that?
Oh, wow.
And then, so we could talk about that. But what I'm seeing here in the transition phase, which I just talked to Scott Mann about this, and he's still trying to figure it out.
Scott Mann was fantastic. I enjoyed watching that so much. That was a great interview.
15 years, man. He said, I'm still trying to figure it out. So
awesome for your audience. They're gonna love that. That's gonna be a tremendous.
But you just added the extra layer on that. You got to take it slow.
You got to take it slow. And again, identity is for me that's the thing that I struggled with. And so when I lost my identity, things started unraveling. Things started unraveling pretty quick. The world didn't make sense. And what we're taught is to just push through, right? To just keep pushing through.
Yeah.
And then
it's dangerous, right?
Oh, so dangerous.
So the danger there is either fear or ego. Like which one dies? Because it's going to be one or the other.
I would say ego is just armored fear. It's like you're pretending that you're not afraid, right? When you're terrified. And I mean, I'm talking about, I went through some things that were terrifying in terms of what's going on, who am I, where am I, what's happening. I'm not sure, because I lost my identity. It was completely gone. And it was a process of rebuilding that. The other component that really helped me was in my transition, finding the truth.
Yeah.
Right? What's true? And I'm not talking about, it's true that, the New England Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. No, right. It's like, what is, no kidding, the truth? Like, what is true? Because when you start to lose your identity, and again, things start to destabilize, you lose coherence, it really becomes like, I don't know what's real. I don't know what's not real. And so you've got to come back to truth as kind of the truth will set you free, and so that's a very true statement. And so what links identity to truth is values, right? What do you value? Yeah. And I think it's the first day, if not, it's certainly the first week when you join the military. They don't teach you how to shoot a gun, nope. Right? They don't teach you how to jump out of an airplane. They teach you the core values of the institution. So the indoctrination, if you will, the identity building starts right away, right? These are the core values that 400,000 people live by, will die for, you must believe in, you must internalize, right? Integrity first in everything you do. Integrity's got to come first. Integrity is truth. Mm-hmm. Service before self, right? That's an Air Force core value. What does service before self means? It means the Air Force comes before me, not only me, comes before my daughter, comes before my wife, comes before my family, comes before my dying mom.
Yeah.
Service before self. Service comes first, and then excellence in all we do. Excellence. Think about that word for a second. What does that mean to you? It means different things to different people. Excellence means maintaining a standard that is excellent at all times in everything you do. And so you start to live this life, and you start to live it under a high pressure situation of basic training. And then you get more responsibility and more responsibility. And as you move on, you internalize those values, and they truly do become something that you have very, very strong belief in. And then when you leave the military, you lose those values because not everybody has those values or similar values.
Yeah. I'll argue with you on that. I don't think you lose them. I think they're inherent now. I mean, integrity, service, and excellence are the way we live our lives. I never stop doing it. I just see other people don't.
Yeah, that's actually what kept me anchored.
Yeah,
right? Was those core values.
Right.
And so I write a lot about this in my book. I've got a book coming out called Lessons Earned.
I can't wait.
Not lessons learned, but lessons earned, where I talk about a lot of these things to try to share what the impact of some. I mean, we use words like identity, truth, values, beliefs, but we don't unpack those decisions, judgment. We don't unpack the meaning behind them to understand how do all of these things link together. And when your whole world falls apart and you've got to rebuild it, and I'm still working on this piece by piece, brick by brick, truth, values, identity, those things become very important.
When you talk about your world falling apart, you're talking internally. Whenever someone says, "How you doing, Mike?" You're like, "I'm fine." But internally, you've got this struggle that you're not telling anybody about, right? Like, how does this look for you? Like, if you could describe the feeling, because people are going to go through this, and they think that they're not, and then they hang up the uniform. And from your perspective, you started your leadership journey was one that opened up doors to everyone that we think of as a leader today. everyone that we think of as a leader today who's leading things is a technologist in some way or form, way, shape, or form. So as a technologist, and then, a cybersecurity expert, and then a security expert, and then a leader, like your whole world, it shifted. How did that work internally?
It was a mess at first, man. I mean, to be honest, it was a complete mess. I think I had 4 or 5 jobs within the first 2 years.
So you're grasping at different jobs, trying to
make sense of the world, trying to make sense of the world. Who am I? Where do I fit? And to be honest, there's not a good place for a senior military officer that's got 20 plus years of leadership experience, can run any program, any facility, any organization in the world. Has done that. There's really no place for me to fit in corporate America. I have friends of mine that are more senior than I was, more senior than we were. They go in, they become senior associates in a consulting company. And it's, the analogy that I use, and I do talk in a lot of analogies, that's like driving a Lamborghini that you have in the garage to the mailbox. Mm-hmm. I mean, that individual can do so much more than just get the mail. You know what I mean? But again, there's no place for that. And so it's difficult. It's difficult to transition. I think expectations is another huge transition point that folks that I talk a lot with. Like, what are your expectations? What do you want? And everybody wants, the bottom of the pyramid. I need survival. I need a paycheck. I got to pay my mortgage. I got to feed my family. But it's like, okay, let's go a level deeper than that. Like, what does success look like for you now? Because it's not about a promotion. It's not about, a particular role or a particular job. It's really about how do you want to offer and deliver value to the marketplace in your current, capacity. And that can look a lot of different ways. And I don't think people think too deeply about it. They just get caught up in the transition motion of, okay, I got to find a job. And for me, that was extremely difficult.
It wasn't probably difficult for you to find a job. It was finding a job that would actually fit the need that you had fulfilled for decades, man. Like, you were in some elite organizations, and to go from elite to ordinary is a major step for anyone to take. Did you feel like you had to take that step?
I did at the time. And, the other component to it is the operating environments are so different. Like, we're part of the post 9/11 generation. If the World War II generation was the greatest generation, right, which they were, right? We are the resilient generation, right? We dealt with decades of war. We dealt with constant ambiguity, constant struggle, constant demands. And we did our job, and then you see, Scott was talking about this, you see, and you were there for this, right? You see the way Afghanistan ends, right? Yeah. And then you've got people out there wondering, what does this mean for everything we did? But you can't go there. You just have to go, you know what? We did what we were asked. We held up our end of the bargain. And that's kind of where it ends. So that operating environment is very different than a corporate operating environment. And so when I first went into corporate America, I go in as a military commander, senior level, White House experience. When I was a commander, we did what was right, and we didn't deviate from that. And
you weren't just a
was
commander; you were a commander in a build-up combat environment with real-world results and operations. I mean, there's a difference between being a commander. I'm sorry, no, I'm not. I'm not sorry. If you're a commander and you didn't have any problems, good for you. But there was a difference between your command and a lot of commands. So again, with your whole career, it's been an elite level career. So anyone who would put the Lamborghini in the garage or take it out for a Sunday stroll, it's a slap in the face, man. Like, you're looking to get a new paint job, and they're looking to just keep you safe for some reason. It's weird.
Yeah. So it was definitely an adjustment period. And again, I for me, I want to win.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, from first time I got my first baseball glove at 6 years old, it was about, how do I become the best baseball player on the field? How do I make the all-star team? How do we win? what position can I play to help like, I don't know, that's just inside of me. Right. And so
did you feel like you took an L whenever you got out of the military?
I felt like I took several, actually. I felt like I was a failure. My transition was a failure. Maybe my military career was a failure.
But what pointed to that, man? That's where I'm at.
That's the internal dialogue, I think, where you just start to convince yourself that, and again, you go back to identity, values, and truth. I mean, to me, that's where I had to come back to reorient on, okay, who am I? Mm-hmm. What do I believe? Yeah. What is actually true? How do I realign myself with reality, right? With what is actually true? And then how do I then deliver the value that I know I can bring and deliver? And for me, that was a process. It wasn't anybody's fault. It was just a process that I was completely unprepared for, had never even thought about, and just had to work through.
So you found this path and you're on it now. You're doing amazing work. I'm a big fan. I always like all your posts. I'm like, this is great. This is great. This is great. How did you find your way out of it, man? And that's probably your book. So I don't want you to spoil it for us or anything, but how did you find your way out of it?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, from our military days, going and talking to somebody about, the things that you're going through is frowned upon. Mm-hmm. You can't go over there and talk to those folks. They're going to pull your security clearance, right? So I think what helped me the most was getting grounded back in my faith. That was number one. And that now becomes a huge part of my identity. Number two was just talking to people, just talking it out, talking to people like Scott, who was just on the show, talking about and finding out that, we have a lot of similar things. Other people are experiencing what I'm experiencing. Mm-hmm. My goodness. And the more you talk about it, the more you realize. And the more you realize, the better you understand. The better decisions you can make. And slowly but surely, things start to, put themselves back into the right order. Not because of anything I'm doing, but it's, again, how I'm looking at particular situations or even myself. And then you got to change that internal dialogue to something that's more positive, yes, but also more directional and more oriented in truth.
Yeah, I like this. Okay, so I'm going to ask a very pointed question. Your whole career, you're around people that were selected to be there, man. Like I got asked a question on one of my first shows. It was like, how are you motivating your team? I'm like, everyone shows up here motivated, brother. That's how this works. Like, I didn't just show up and then they're like, oh, well, what can we do? No, everyone's working. That's how you get to the organization. I was in JSOC at the time. Yeah. I was like, everyone's motivated. That ain't how it works. So as you transition and you start to look at who's left, I'm going to tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to ask you this question. I was looking at my phone on the way here, and I always go through like the screenshots that I take whenever I'm bored. I just delete, stuff that I like, shopping lists or whatever. Yeah. Get rid of this crap. And one of the screenshots that I looked at yesterday was it was my best friend of like 20 years. He was my best friend when I was in the military. And I'll pause there for effect, I guess. And he said, I saw this awesome video that you put out. And I said, yeah, my editing team did great. And he laughed at that. And I go, I'm not sure why you're laughing, but yeah. And he's like, the fact that you even have an editing team is hilarious. and I was like, I forgot that I was talking to someone that doesn't know me, because I've transitioned into somebody else. Now, I said, I have an editing team. I employ people now. We do a lot of good things for the world. I hope you're great. Never talk to them ever again. And I screenshotted that as a reminder that people in your life need to change every once in a while. But the transition process that you went through, who was there for you? Because you found faith.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And that's always been there. I mean, my mom and dad, they did a good job of making sure that, and that's important to me. My wife has been there the entire time. Have not always been the nicest husband, right? Or the best husband. My daughter's always been there. Now I worry about, as she was growing up, were there times where I was impatient? Did I yell at her? Did I get angry with her? Because you start to realize later on, almost after the fact, it's like you have a huge influence on your kids' lives while you're raising them. And I was gone. I was gone for years, where I wasn't around. When we were in the White House, we were traveling all the time.
And I get that. I got to combat that every time I hear it, man.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't around, but I was setting the example. So my daughter now knows what it looks like whenever she gets married. Her husband's probably not going to be around all the time.
Yeah.
And if her husband's all around all the time, maybe that's not the person you want to marry.
Yeah.
And my son sees that it's not just given to me. I have to actually work. And I chose the nomadic lifestyle. There are other lifestyles you can choose, right? But I think you're setting the right example, brother. I mean, so
we clearly are. And to see her now where she's at is unbelievable. I mean, she's doing amazing. So she's doing great.
Papa, dude. I see a lot of the proud papa conversations.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's playing softball now. She's going to Washington University in St. Louis. Wash U, go Bears. She's in her third year now. She's already got a fellowship with the State Department when she leaves to be a diplomatic technology officer. Awesome. She's doing absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But I think back to your question, you got to be there for yourself, because when you're doing this rebuilding, nobody's going to pick you up off the mat. And you go through these stages of awakening or reckoning or rearranging, where it's like, okay, I'm the only one that's going to make sense of this.
Say that again, because that needs to be heard. You're the only one that's going to make sense of this.
Yeah, I'm the only one that's going to make sense of this and figure out what direction to go in, right? And sometimes that takes sitting there, right? It takes sitting there, crying a pile of tears, if that's what you have to do. Yeah. Punching a pillow, screaming out loud, whatever it is that you do to cope, right? At the end of that, you're still there. And so you've now got to figure out, okay, how do I do this? And then how do others do this? What is the actual problem that I'm encountering? Like, you have to really start, and this takes it did for me. I don't know about others. It takes years to go through this process of, I'll call it reintegration, to a normal life. And I still have, this operator and it's operator syndrome is what it is. You're in this operating mode of, okay, over here, what's the alpha? What's the bravo? What's the Charlie? What's the delta? Where are we going? How are we moving? Where are we getting there? The world doesn't operate like that. Nope. As I started to learn about things like depression and anxiety and panic disorder and all these things, they talk about, well, don't what if scenarios to death. That's really bad. Your future, you're out in the future and you're really thinking about things that, wait till you get there, stay in the present moment. It's like, well, my job for 20 years was to plan worst case scenarios, was to be ready for A, be ready for B, be ready for C. And if C didn't work, we at least had D, and we had tested D and we knew D worked. And you can go, that becomes an operating mode.
Yeah. The whole PACE plan. Primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency is something that's
4 backups.
It's been baked into us. But what's not talked about, and this isn't classified or anything, I'll share it because I know Mike knows, is you did 2 PACEs normally because you were in a no-fail mission. So you had your normal PACE that everyone talked about, but you're like, okay, what if that fails? In the back of my head, I'm like, what if that fails? I remember I want to say India. In India, we were at like a military parade and they had these jammers. They kept jamming all the cell signals. Now, how are you supposed to make a phone call when the cell signals are, you know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
So like your PACE plan, it doesn't include jammers.
Right.
So like, how do you communicate? And these are things that like I really had to deal with. And so, and I figured out how to make that happen. And I told them to turn the jammers off. That was my S.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Stop.
Yeah, that's right.
Primary, alternate, contingency, emergency, and stop.
Yeah. But when you're trained to think a certain way and you operate a certain way, for so long, it just becomes second nature. And then when you transition out of an environment into a different environment, and that different environment has different rules and you have to behave differently in that environment, it really becomes almost dysfunctional in the sense that, again, it's coherence. You lose kind of coherence of, well, it worked over there. Why wouldn't it work over here? Well, the reason it doesn't work over here could be 1,005 different reasons why. And it's like, you have to kind of start to figure that out and adapt, and I think that's another thing that our generation is very, very good at, is we are very adaptable. I mean, when I joined the military, my first work center, we had one computer and it was a dumb terminal. It wasn't connected to anything. It was running local software. And then you think about all of the technological advances from, the late 90s to, 2018, 2020, we were a part of that. Like, those were the systems and the things that we ran and we led and we managed. And, to see all of that now is like, it is crazy. And
well, think about this now. If you were 18, or let's go into 20s. Let's see if you're 25, right? Your brain's fully developed and you don't know what a smartphone is. That was us.
Right.
I mean, we didn't have email. I tell people all the time, I used to print out emails because my general didn't know how to use the computer. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I'm that old.
Yeah.
Like, think about like the whole technology shift that happens now. And when you go into a workplace or when you go into any place, people have their phones in their face. How do you disrupt that? How does a leader disrupt that nowadays?
Yeah. It's the human connection, which is becoming a lost art, I'm afraid, with AI and all of the things. AI is a wonderful technology. It is an enabler, but it does not make decisions. It does not replace humans. There's nothing like this interaction right here. And so I try to remember that as a leader, again, seeing all of the technological changes that I've experienced, right? It always comes in, even in cybersecurity today, like, it's not the latest tool. It's not the latest product. It's not the latest. It's cultural. It's the way people think and the way people behave and the way they use the technology.
Yeah.
That's what makes the difference. And that usually comes down to a shared understanding.
Yeah, the AI is never going to replace the ability to take what you've put out for our country and put that into a human connection. It's never going to be something that it can do. So how are you harnessing that? Talk about, did you put that in your book?
Yeah. So I've got a whole chapter in the book about these technological advances that we've gone through. I've set up the book as kind of these core lessons that I learned along the way. So it's kind of chronological.
Awesome.
The first chapter is core values are core. And I talk a lot about, learning the core values of the institution and what that meant. And like you were saying, to this day, I still live by those values.
It bothers me whenever someone tells me a bull-faced lie. I'm like, that's not integrity. And then I give them that look. That look. We are all taught to go, what? What'd you just say to me? That kind of stuff. But yeah, man, that's a good start. You got to start with the foundation. That's foundational. I love that. I love that approach. What's your goal with the book? What do you plan on? What is, if I'm going to buy the book, what am I going to take away from it?
You're going to get a firsthand perspective of a journey inside of an organization that is elite, that is essentially a leadership development lab that is the best in the world at building, equipping, and making leaders to do two things: to execute a mission and to drive success. And how you do that depends, but that's kind of the core goal. So again, I come back to leaders serve, results matter. If you're interested in learning, and I learn from others, I tend to learn from my firsthand experience, and then who else has done this? Who else has been down this path? And I think there's a lot of really good nuggets in there for people to, and again, I'm sharing it. To me, I almost view it as I went and spent 22 years with this amazing tribe that does business differently, and I learned a ton, and all of that ton that I learned is boom in the book.
Yeah. I love that. So you're going to have White House stories in there.
I'm going to have I've got a chapter on the White House. I thought about how to do that, but I've got it kind of figured out in terms of my White House time, which was a huge assignment for me.
My stuff got approved, so yours will too. As long as you're not talking about operations, it'll pass the DOD or Department of War, whatever they're calling today. The checks,
Departmental review or whatever that process is.
They do a full up check on your book.
Yeah.
Mike Vining, Sergeant Major Mike Vining from Special Forces is doing his right now.
Okay.
The guy with the most confirmed kills, it looks like Mr. Rogers, the memeable guy. Mm-hmm. He's coming out on podcasts, trying to get him on the show. But he's like, yeah, I just pushed it through. I'm like, took 4 months for me. But the White House stories are absolutely gold. I'll tell you, I was on a set in DC And one of the questions was, how was your experience in the White House? And I was like, it was amazing. It's hard for me to even put it in words. And my coach afterwards is like, you got to put it into words, dude. That's why they got you there, dummy. And I'm like, oh, fair. And then I came back afterwards and, I was talking about it. He goes, I just got to tell you, like, nobody cares about the rest of your service. They only care about your time in elite places like the White House. And I'm like, damn, I know somebody that's got a lot more elite places than me, and that's you. So I can only imagine what you're going to put in that book. But share a White House story for you, for my audience.
Oh, man.
They love it. I've had a couple WAMU guys on my show. They talk about like elevator trips. They're like, people get on there and they have one job and it's to press the button.
Yeah.
And like they can't mess it up, but they do.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I remember the most, obviously, is being on Air Force One was really cool. The mill aides were awesome, right? Working with the military aide to the president, who kind of heads up all of the military support for the president, is kind of the point person, carries the bag, working shoulder to shoulder with those leaders who are, to a person, phenomenal. Was an incredible experience. Was an incredible leadership experience, and also just a learning life experience. Two things come to mind. Two quick stories. The first would be on Air Force One story.
Yeah.
So we get on Air Force One. I think it's my first or second time on Air Force One. I sit in my seat. It's got my placard, Major Brooks, and I'm looking at, what are we going to eat and stuff, and I'm just kind of getting lost a little bit in kind of the experience, just for a second. And then the mill aide looked over at me and said,
which one was it?
I think it was Lee.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
So I walked over. Yeah. Lee Meyer. I walked over to Lee, and he's like, Chief of Staff's in the conference room. He needs your help. I'm like, I got it on it. Yes, sir. So I shoot in the conference room, and he's just like, he's got his laptop open, and he's like, it won't work. It's not working. I need your help. It's not working. I got important work to do and not working. And I'm like, okay, let me check it out, And so he kind of stepped aside, and I just kind of was looking at it, and it was the LAN connection, the LAN cable going into the jack wasn't quite plugged in. It was like 80% plugged in. And so I just was like, ooh, this looks, I didn't get the green blinky lights. I'm like, ooh, this looks like it went.
Yeah, buddy.
And I said, sir, you're good to go. I think you're back online. And he was like, oh my God, that was amazing. How did you fix that so quickly? I was like, secret.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
Let me know if you have any other issues. Walked back out, told Lee's I was like, yeah, we're good to go.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he did. He was over animated. I loved it.
So that's one story. And then the other story would be a very cool experience. I don't know how I got to be able to be part of this, but it was amazing. They call them blackout trips. We did one to Afghanistan, and this is where the president just poof, he appears in Afghanistan. Nobody knows he's going. We had to advance that trip. We had to go, 3 or 4 days in advance. Jim Husso was there. Danny Burns was there. We had awesome mill aides. It was just an A+ team.
These are all people from our agency.
Yeah. Just shouting out to those guys because it was just a great trip. So anyway, but it was a super intense time. It was like 3 or 4 days of pretty much constant work to get ready. We were there under other, pretenses in terms of what we were doing and what work we were doing.
Yeah.
And just to be part of something like that. I mean, we worked all through the night.
Yeah. President
came in, did his visit with the Afghan government, signed a strategic partnership agreement, gave an address to the nation. I think it was the first time ever from Jimmy V was there, the first time ever from a combat zone, a live address to the nation. And so to be a part of that was just incredible. And then
that's awesome.
Air Force One was kind of taken off in the early dawn hours, and we were at the chow hall just kind of, half fallen over. We hadn't slept in probably a couple of days, or whatever, or slept very little in a couple of days. And just to see that, it was a success was really cool.
That's awesome. You're going to put those in your book?
Yeah, those are the two. I've got a couple other little vignettes, but those for two for sure are going to be in there.
Yeah, that's so
preview.
Yeah, there you go. Definitely check that out. A lot of people are interested in how this all works. And for Mike, he actually was on Air Force One, on the Marine One helicopter, making sure that if a bad day happened, people always ask me, like, what'd you do? And I always say, whenever on the movies they say, get the president on the phone. And then some dude that you don't recognize picks up the phone and he's like walking towards the president. I'm that dude. I was that guy. Yeah. And they're like, oh, that's the best way I can explain it. But the agency itself makes the president able to do his job. Definitely core memories. You lived at the White House. You lived on Air Force One. You slept on Air Force One. You got a bill from Air Force One for your move. Let's talk about that.
Again, it's just an incredible experience. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of responsibility from a leadership standpoint. Yeah. Functioning as what was called the command rep. So essentially for the White House Communications Agency, being that lead of all of the support that's being provided, and phenomenal team, right? We've got phenomenal people doing great work. And so it was just a privilege to be part of that and have those experiences. The other place where I learned a lot from a leadership perspective was being a commander. Was being the guy who was responsible and accountable for every single thing in your unit and every single decision, every single person made.
What would you tell a new commander getting in the seat? What would you tell them? Someone just took command. They grabbed the stick. They're sitting in a chair. And they have experience from Mike Brooks. What would you tell?
I would say leaders serve, results matter.
Of course you would.
That's what I would say. And I would mean it. And I would mean it. And then I would say, go start talking to people and get to know them. Find out what they do. Find out how they do it. Find out what's in their way. Just start communicating. And then inside of your unit and then outside of your unit. And this was probably the most beneficial thing that I did was start to make peer relationships with counterparts. And
that's so key, man.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I was fortunate enough to have a good buddy that we were commanders together downrange. We didn't have our family, so we got very close. Josh Perzing was there. He was a logistics commander.
Yep.
Poncho, shout out to Poncho. We spent a ton of time together and just shared stories. And so it's important to make sure you're getting recharged too when you're in those roles and you're with people that you can trust and talk to. But yeah, that's what I would tell them. I mean, just go out and start talking to people and you'll start hearing things, and then do what's needed.
The first 48 hours, what did you do in your command?
Oh, I think I slept in the office, for the first couple of days. We got started right away. Unfortunately, I got there at a time where the world was very unstable and ISIS was going crazy, and things got operational very, very quick. I mean, we were pushing forces into Iraq within 48 hours of us taking command. So that first weekend, I think we worked all night, and then we just kept that pace up for a year, and we increased operations 400%. Like I was telling you earlier, we had one aircraft on the ramp when I got there. When I left, we had over 80. We'd opened up new bases. The best memory I have from my time in command was I had exceptional young flight commanders and company grade lieutenants and captains that came in there. All are commanders now. All have gone on and done wonderful things, but they were so inspiring to just see them be able to just step up time and time again and get things done. It's just, I'll never forget it. Unbelievable.
So for the civilians who listen, those ranks are the people that are at the top of their ability to prove things. So they can actually get it done. If you give them something to do, they're usually excited to prove themselves. Is that what you found?
Yeah, they're on their way up. I mean, so these are the, I guess these are the young leaders. They say lieutenants grow up, and to watch them grow up, in an operational environment where they're contributing to mission, doing things way above and beyond what should be asked of them, and to see them grow as leaders. And again, we certainly lean on our senior enlisted folks. I had an amazing chief, amazing senior NCO corps there. We would have been directionless without them. But, to see those young officers step up was amazing. I'll never forget it.
I have to go into this, and then we'll move out of it, I promise. But during that cycle, whenever you're deployed, but you're in command too, your time shifts differently. Like it's like your 1, 2, 3 years of command equal like double or triple that amount of experience because you're always there. How did you break up your day during your command while you were in a combat zone?
Yeah, the gym was kind of my haven. I mean, we would get there early in the morning. We would do our workout. Josh and I would go. We'd go most mornings together.
So you and another commander would go?
Yeah, we'd go, and then we'd go eat. And, we would try to find time to hang out. We would watch a show maybe at night or just debrief the day. We would tend to kind of meet back and debrief the day. and we did that for a year. I mean, we did it and we worked constantly. We worked, all the time. Yeah. What was unique too about this particular command tour for me, we had 200 people in the squadron. We had one person who was there on a 1-year tour, and that was me. Everybody else was rotational. So every 4 to 6 months, my entire team changed out.
Yeah.
And that happened 3 times. And so as a leader, I not only had to give the direction, in some cases I had to provide the training on how things got done because there was an overlap and things like that. And so it really taught me to kind of know your business as a leader and be able to understand how all of the pieces and parts work, not to the super tactical level, but certainly understanding what the key components of the engine are.
That's huge.
Yeah,
I mean, that's huge. I like that a lot. All right. So what are you doing now? You got a book going on.
Got my book coming out, Lessons Earned, right? That should be out early summer, late summer.
Okay.
So
I'm going to put a link on it.
Okay,
if they're watching it later, they'll have the link to buy. If not, they're going to get a link to probably your LinkedIn profile or something that advertises it. So yeah.
And so now I'm working in cybersecurity, which is what I did in the military. I'm working with the defense industrial base. Which is awesome. I love supporting the defense mission. And I'm working for a company called A-Line, which is a cybersecurity and compliance auditing and assessment firm.
Okay.
And we are working on assessing all of the defense contractors who have to meet certain cybersecurity requirements, which are new. And so it's awesome in the sense that now I think I finally found a place where I can provide the value that I have in terms of how do you securely run, a network and information systems to meet federal cybersecurity standards, right? I've done that for decades. That part I got. How do you help others be successful, right? So we do a lot with the clients in terms of making sure that they've got a good plan, they've got a good approach, they can get certified because this certification, it's significant. I mean, without it, they're out of business.
Do you find that they're lying to themselves in some aspects on some things?
I just don't think they don't know. I think it's more they don't know kind of what right looks like or how to do it. And so there's just because it's kind of new. And so again, that's where you can leverage the experience to say, hey, look, I've been there. I've seen these. I've assessed these systems. I've written these accreditation packages. I've done this work. This is what they're looking for. This is what you need to be able to provide.
So you can kind of give them the playbook of what they're looking for because you have the experience to do that.
Yeah, and then do the assessment on the backside to say, we can't obviously do both at the same time, but then you can do the assessment to say, okay, does this meet the standard, for what the Department of Defense is trying to do, and it's always going to be the Department of Defense to me. I don't call it the Department of War yet. I haven't.
It's hard to switch over.
I haven't got there yet.
Decades of Department of Defense.
Yeah, we'll see. Department of Defense, Department of War, but. They just released the 2026 National Defense Strategy.
I saw you put an article out on that.
Yeah. And so one of the key lines of effort or one of the major objectives of the National Defense Strategy is to supercharge the defense industrial base, right? So yes, we have the world's greatest military. Yes, we have the world's greatest fighting force, right? But a huge component of that is because of our defense industrial base, which makes all of the things that our warfighters need. And so staying connected to the mission that way to me, the mission continues. That's kind of my byline of what I say is great. And so I'm in a good place now. I'm doing this work and I really enjoy it. I'm mentoring young folks that are transitioning. I'm doing, lots of other things with my time that are, extremely valuable. Spending more time with my dog, with my daughter, with my wife, and just kind of enjoying life now. I feel like I've, gotten through a pretty stormy transition season.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a book to help other people get themselves through that storm a little quicker too. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So thanks for putting that together. All right, I'm going to do a rapid fire question series.
Rapid
this
fire.
is the first one I've ever done.
All right, see how it goes.
All right. So leader versus manager, which matters most?
Leader.
Trust or control?
Trust.
Culture or compensation?
Culture.
Speed or precision?
Precision.
Does that win longer? Like precision wins in the long term?
Can't go fast until you're precise.
Fair. Mission or money?
Oh, mission.
Always, huh?
Yeah, man.
All right, brother. Well, how can people find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Micheal Brooks, CISSP, PMP, MPA. So just find me on LinkedIn. That's primarily where I'm at. I don't hang out a lot of other places. My Facebook stuff is just pictures of my dog and pictures of my daughter and pictures of my wife and pictures of the alligators in our lake. So that's what I'm doing on Facebook.
You got alligators in your lake?
We have big ones.
How big? Do you wrestle with these alligators?
I don't go near them.
Do you call somebody? You're like, I got another alligator.
No, but people move into the neighborhood all the time and like, they're like, oh my God, I was walking by the lake. There was a giant alligator. Somebody called the Florida Fish and Wildlife. They're like, they've been there for 100 years. Don't bother them. They won't bother you. They're just sunning.
They end up in the pool? Do they ever go into anybody's pool?
They move around the neighborhood sometimes, but yeah, so.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. All right. So yeah, we'll throw your LinkedIn profile up there. Any words of advice? I'm going to ask it in this way. If you could go back 20 years and talk to a younger Mike Brooks, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
I would tell him, take it easy. I would tell him, take it easy and enjoy the ride. That's really what I would tell him. And I think that's kind of where I'm at now is, take it easy and enjoy the ride because, for a long time, we were engaged, man. And
for sure.
We were keyed up and we stayed keyed up for a long time. And, the process of unkeying for me is still taking time. I mean, it's a daily battle. It's not necessarily as difficult as it was. The discovery continues. My faith has been the grounding force in my life, which is amazing. But I would just tell him, take it easy and, enjoy the ride. That for me, I didn't come from a whole lot, so I had to build it all, and that was kind of what I was doing. I was trying to create a better future for, my daughter and her generation and the next generation. And
I think you've done that, brother.
I hope so.
I'm super proud to call you a friend and a brother. I'm going to give you some stuff.
Awesome.
This is my ginger beard patch.
Oh my gosh.
That is, it's got the ginger beard on there.
Awesome.
The 3 principles down there and the blood splats are people, time, and money. Of course, we know people are the most important thing. So I'm targeting the heart there.
Oh man.
There's a whole write-up on what that is, but I'm just giving it to people who didn't give up, man.
That's awesome, bro.
So who's first? You're first. You answered that question in this interview. So I'm going to give you that. And then I'm going to give you this, which I've only given to a couple of people who I absolutely want to keep in my life. I think they're key to my life. And it is a skeleton key.
Oh my goodness.
You can put that. Of course, you can put that with your coins because we're not military anymore. We've tried to figure out how to open more doors, and I know you're going to open more doors. And you're doing it with the keys that were given to you. So I wanted to give you the key to remind you how powerful you really are, bro. There's a lot of people that look up to you, and not every one of them gets to spend time on social media to tell you that. So I know from my personal experience, I've gotten a lot of accolades about you, your work, your persona, who you are as a man, and how you show up. So for all the people that can't send you those messages, I wanted that to be publicly noted. You're doing amazing things. You're going to keep doing amazing things. And I'm super proud to have you in my network, man.
Oh, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. And I'm going to close out the show. For all of you who join us all the time, thank you. Send this to your friend, your mom, your mom's dog, if they have an account. And let's stay at the top percentage of YouTube. Starting to branch out in the Spotify area. So thank you for leaving reviews out there. If you're listening from a different country, we have YouTube there too. Check us out. You'll want to watch the show. It's a lot better if you watch it because Mike Brooks actually, he's an amazing looking man too. He's not just amazing to listen to. So for all of you, I just want to say thank you, aim for excellence, and stay on target. Stay with us as we stay on target with another awesome episode coming up next. We'll see you there. And subscribe to Targeted Now. As an ambassador to buckedup.com, I get to give you our special discount. That's Atlas25 when you go to buckedup.com to get that special discount. Only for our listeners, Atlas25.
Go to bookedup.com now.
Entrepreneurs, you're wasting money. Are you paying for TV, radio, maybe even newspapers? I gotta tell you, that's all dead. What's new? Well, I'm glad you asked, Atlas. It's podcasting. Just so happens I have a very successful podcast that I can put you on. And we're looking for guests. So if you have a product or service that will help people, hit us up. Atlas Aultman Targeted Podcast. We bring new audiences to new people, and we bring new people to, well, you. Check us out.